Yes, my name is Jörg Müller, and I'm at the Open University of Catalonia. And before I start, I really want to express also my thanks to the organizers and all the people working behind the scenes who made this possible. I think it's really an excellent organization of the conference. And I also want to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to present here GenPORT, an internet portal for sharing resources on gender and science. GenPORT is a project that is financed by the European Commission. It will run from 2013 to 2017, that's 4 years. And it's basically a community working across the globe for gender equality and excellence in science, technology, and innovation. And it's very important, we always stress this point that this is including all science, natural science, social science, and humanities. You can think of GenPORT really as a piece of infrastructure that supports this global movement of gender equality in science. I mean, we heard many times during the talks during the past days that what we need is evidence for gender innovations. And I think GenPORT is a central place where you can find this evidence and discuss it. Right now we are in the middle of the project. We have still a little bit more than half a year to go. We have a little bit more than 2 years to go. And we just finished the beta testing of the site. We are incorporating now the changes, and towards the end of September we hope to make this really open to the public where you can register and contribute to what's there. The project is coordinated by the Open University of Catalonia, as I said. It's a pure distance university located in Barcelona. And I thought, since I'm the last speaker of the last session of the last day of this conference, I sneak in a couple of slides about Barcelona to cheer you up before we really get to the challenges building this portal. It's a very beautiful city. And if you haven't been there, you should come and visit. You know, it's excellent food, nice people, very nice beaches, and it's also a really spectacular architecture. This is a shot from inside the Sagrada Familia from the famous architect Gaudi. But actually, it's not just the architecture and the culture that people are coming to Barcelona, but you might have guessed it that one of the biggest tourist attractions is the football stadium of FC Barcelona. And you might have not guessed that the most important tourist attraction in Barcelona is a small village outside the city, which only is an artificial village, only containing designer clothing outlets. Most people that come to Barcelona go to this village, and it's actually the #1 place before Sagrada Familia. So if you want to have tourists in your city, you know what you have to do. Get designer stores, outlets. As I said, we coordinate this at the Open University, but of course there's a whole consortium behind this project. Here you can see the list of partners, and although the original remit of the Commission was to build an internet portal specifically, none of these partners is really a technical partner. The reason is that the technical part is really easy. You can set up an internet portal in a question of, 30 minutes, get some basic content on there maybe in a day. But what's really the challenge is to build the community who keeps this alive. And that's the reason why you see here really institutions and people that have a long history working for gender and science. The core group who will make this happen. Let me give you a quick Let me give you a quick overview of what this involves, and it's basically a gateway to European gender and science resources. It should be like a one-stop access point to the major resources. It's not only that we collect all these resources, but actually what we're trying to do is we structure it in a certain way, so make things easier to find, and that's what I want to introduce you through a couple of slides in order to make this clearer. First of all, we have projects. What you can find on there are all the FP6 and FP7 and now the Horizon 2020 projects that deal with gender. Here's an example of a project that has just finished. It's called European Gender Medicine, and it deals with the integration of sex and gender into medicine. The reason why I put it up here is also that we've been in very close contact with the coordinators of this project in order to now really disseminate their results and continue the discussion they have initiated through GenPORT. Among other things, this includes the integration of gender and sex into the medical curriculum. I mentioned this because this was also an issue that came up the other day. Then we have another type of content. These are resources. What you also find up there are all the publications by the European Commission and the reports. There's the Gendered Innovations, for example, report, but there's also the stock-taking 10 years Women in Science policy by the European Commission, which actually formed the base for this portal because it collected everything that has been done over the past years by the Commission. Then we have organizations working in this field, and here a good example is the European Institute of Gender Equality, which is an organization which itself has lots of resources, like for example the Resource and Documentation Center. There's a gender-based violence site or a gender mainstreaming site they just recently launched, or there's the Gender Equality Index, which reflects the progress of the European Union in terms of gender equality. Then we have two further categories, which are events and persons. And persons, I would say, is especially important because in the end what we want to be once we open up the portal is that you really can contribute to what's on there by uploading your material and your insights. And right. The interesting thing is also that it's these top-level categories do not exist by themselves, but you can also then establish connections. So, for example, that a certain person publishes a report, that people take part in events, that organizations organize a conference, etc. Now let me talk a little bit about the opportunities and challenges of networking. And it might not come as a surprise that really the European research area is very diverse. That's the first thing. Here's a slide for the differences between the countries in terms of gender equality plans. And you see the greenish are above European average and the bluish countries are below European average. And if you take the situation to support the improvement of gender balance in decision making and women in top position, the picture changes slightly. We're still, the Nordic countries are very prominent always, but in this case it's also Austria, even Bulgaria. And the situation changes again if you look at the situation of incorporating gender content in research programs, where now pink means that there are actually many countries that don't do anything yet in this respect. Sorry? Yeah, not Denmark. So the point is that there's not an easy clustering of these countries. The situation is very diverse depending on what aspect of gender equality you look at. And this made it very hard for us to picture, what are actually the needs that are out there and how do we best address them. This is all gets further confirmed if you actually look at what's already on the portal. On the left side, you have a small selection of organizations that are working in this field in Europe, and on the right hand side you see that some basic figures of what we already have on the portal. So there are 190 organizations, 480 resources, almost 500 resources, 56 projects, 68 events, so there's a lot going on. And in order to address these multiple agendas and stakeholders in this field, one of the first things we did was actually a needs assessment. We went out, did interviews with people to ask them, how is the best way that we can support this? And the outcome of this long interviewing process we did, the results basically summarized in concerns, services, and resources. And interestingly, I just want to draw your attention to the item under concerns, like the lack of political will and commitment and agenda setting. This came up from the Northern Europe, and it came also up from the Southern and from Eastern Europe. So although we have a very diverse situation, out of historical reasons, this is a shared concern that we should address and where we could start our work. Okay. Another challenge that arises, I think, and this is really a central challenge, is differences of languages. There are many languages in Europe, let alone on the globe. And the problem is, how do you stay on top of what's going on in other countries? I mean, many times now there has been raised during the sessions that there's a need for, cross-cultural comparison, the contextualization of research that has been done in one country in the other. But how do you really follow up then on the results that are published in other languages? And one way to address this is to develop what we did, gender and science taxonomy, that is, for the moment in English, a description of the main issues and discussion points that come up in this area. We developed this in the consortium. We validated it with science editors, people working in the field, other experts, in order to have a shared basic skeleton that could be used to describe the resources. Once this skeleton is established, you can start translating it, varying it, but it gives you, as long as everybody shares this basic structure, gives you a way to access what's happening in other countries without necessarily having to read, having to understand Japanese or Korean or whatever, but it gives you a sense what's really happening. And then you get in contact with the people who work in this field, who publish a report, but it makes first contact easy. Some of the things that we're planning to do, and let me just, because the time is really, I don't want to go over time, definitely as a speaker. So some of the things that we plan to do ourselves is based on the resources we collected and on the needs we have detected. We're going to publish the research synthesis on the topics you see there. Based on these research synthesis, we're going to have also policy briefs, recommendations how you can translate this in practice. The gender and science taxonomy I already mentioned. We're going to do engagement events where we pick up those central themes that we have detected and invite people to exchange their experience in relation to those issues. So one, for example, is the resistance to the implementation of gender equality in research institutions. There's a huge demand from Eastern European countries to know, how did you do this in Northern Europe? So what we want to do with this engagement events is to facilitate this dialogue between different countries to learn from each other. We're going to have a consultation meeting. This is going to happen just on the day before the Gender Summit 7 in Berlin starts, where we're going to try to figure out the best way to bring together gender experts in the different scientific disciplines to give support how we can best incorporate this gendered this gender expertise in the different areas. It's a huge challenge for Horizon 2020 because many people do not know how to do this in their respective disciplines. And GenPORT, we envision it as a place where you can go if you look for a gender expert in, let's say, transport research or, you know, material science or whatever. And the other thing is that we really want to build further the partnerships between strategic partners whose role is going to be to really decide where do we want to take this portal, in which direction, what topics should be supported. Sustainability partners, of course, in 2 years this project will end, and we need then further funding to keep it alive. And then, of course, there are the contributors. This is you and the community of users who log on and can really use all the resources we have. So, in summary, it's really lots of materials and research that is produced every day, not just in relation to how gender affects the quality and relevance of research, but also on the very structural transformation that we need to push forward in the organization of science and research. And what we hope to provide with GenPORT is a site where this emerging knowledge is available, structured, and as such facilitates a dialogue between all those working in this field. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are actually in injury time. But I think that since the Seoul Declaration has been basically agreed, maybe I will take 10 minutes, over time in order to allow the audience a chance to ask any questions. So please, first one.
Thanks very much for interesting presentations. I'd like to address a comment to Britta Thompson. I am very pleased, like everyone else in this room I'm sure is, with the policy measures associated with Horizon 2020 regarding the inclusion of both gender balance in research teams and gender perspectives. But my concern is about the implementation of that policy. In particular, I'm deeply concerned about the Commission's engagement in training evaluators and indeed whether there's any hope of success for them in doing that. And I start to hear stories, admittedly just anecdotal, that these rules are used in surprising ways. For example, recently I heard a story about an application being rejected because there were too many women on the team and it was an imbalanced group. As it is, these requirements are set up to be decisive in cases where all other things are being equal, which presumably almost never happens. So I was wondering if you could comment on what we do once we get good policies to try to get them properly implemented.
Yes, and I am worried like you, and therefore I was very happy when I saw that the Parliament's Women's Committee in the meeting in July have said that they will keep an eye on that. And when we asked the Commission what they were going to do and why it was not implemented, then they said, but we don't have the competences. We don't know anything about gender innovation. We need to train the staff, we need to train the evaluators and so on. And the huge majority of evaluators are men. And they try to avoid the gender dimension. And in my country, they established a foundation just for women because they became scared when they saw that this gender dimension was necessary to get money from the EU. But now the new minister, he cancelled the fund 3 days ago because they don't feel the pressure is so strong. And this is definitely something that should be done something about. And I'm also glad, so therefore, that the Luxembourg presidency, they will go for it, and I hope they will do something.
Thanks for wonderful presentations. I'm Dr. Khalid from Qatar Foundation R&D and currently visiting scholar at MIT, managing research related to science and technology. As we are talking about the leadership capacity, I would like to share with you 3 bright examples of ladies leaders in our country. The co-founder of Qatar Foundation, Her Highness Sheikh Hamoza bint Nasser, she established Qatar Foundation in 1995 to support science and technology and education. And Qatar Foundation really has now more than 40 centers to serving our community. The second example, bright example, the Minister of Science and Technology and Innovation. She really did a lot of effort to support science and technology and to actually design many programs to support e-learning applications, e-government, and so on. The third example, the person charged to support startup companies and innovation process. She's a lady, and she did a lot of effort really to support partnership between the private and public. So at the end, I would like to comment that in order to support gender, we need all to involve more women from the early stage in STEM programs and learning by doing. So through that, we'll have more interested women to play an important role of economic development in our country. And then at the end, I would like to thank the 4 organizers and the speakers, and I would like to give them a big hand. Thank you.
That is a comment, so I think I'll pass on to the next speaker, please.
Thank you. I have a question for Professor Gretchen Kalonji. I really liked your emphasis on teaching and training future generations to think about multidisciplinary research and solving the global challenges for many different reasons. I was wondering how we can take a quick step into actually realizing that. As I said in my talk, and you referred to it also, there is a possibility, I think, to working together with a network of universities. UNESCO clearly has a number of chairs. I was also thinking about online learning, which is a wonderful way of having students work together when they can't actually be physically together. Leiden University is a member of Coursera, a large international platform of universities that actually put a lot of their teaching online. Could you comment on how you see, what you see as possibilities in the very near future of making this work even better?
No, I guess. Thank you for the question. One idea is for us to work together. Actually, we could build on one of the recommendations from the Gender Summit in North America in their roadmap. And that in the roadmap, there was the idea that the North American science foundations could collectively issue a jointly funded call for proposals. I can't remember what the title was exactly, but if we could convince at least a subset of the funding agencies in the countries represented in the Gender Summit movement to collectively say, we're going to really take the bull by the horns and address the fundamental structure of our research and educational programs, and we're going to do this collectively, then we could design a call for proposals that would require such things as each project would have to have multiple universities from multiple regions, and each project is addressing some sort of grand challenge and needs to address what's innovative and how they're going to evaluate it. That I think could be attractive. I think it could also be very attractive to private foundations. I think that if we build on the community that's been brought together by these gender summits, I think that's a very good start, because as has been pointed out earlier, there's a lot of really interesting and influential people here, and maybe have a subset of whatever your leadership structure exactly is, because this is my first gender summit, to look at some sort of a alliance to set some pilot efforts along these lines. In terms of online stuff, a lot can be done that way. Of course, it's marvelous for the students and professors to actually work together face to face, but in terms of getting started on collaborative activities through online collaborations, that's also really possible and powerful and cheap. From my experience, the really critical step when we're talking about research universities, is to establish common research interests the faculty in the various regions and in the various institutions so that they design together an agenda that makes sense. And it's not, you know, like one university setting a path and then saying, would you like to join?
I'm afraid that time had run out. I was given a gentle hint, not so gentle a hint, that, you know, 3 minutes ago that I only have 2 minutes. But I would like to urge, you know, future organizers of conferences, if you have given overseas speakers 15 minutes and they prepare their presentation, you cannot ask them, you know, to finish in 10 minutes. It's not fair that they come all this way, travel thousands of miles here, and when you ask them to come as a speaker, giving them 15 minutes for the presentation, don't at the last minute say that, you know, 10 minutes only. So please, so I'm the chair here, so I'm going to say that I gave 10 minutes over time. Now it's 10 minutes, 10 past 5. So I will stop this session. But before I stop the session, I want to thank my rapporteur, Emmanuel, and also all my speakers, and mostly the audience. You have stayed on here. I see the full hall, which is most unusual in a conference of 3 days duration, very intensive. So I want to give you all a big applause.